Yeah, it's 14.1, the origins of the Cold War, Maisie. Right? Okay, so we're going to do this section really quick. There's really not much here. 14.2 is where a lot of the action is, right? Right? Yes, it is. So I'm going to be fighting Maisie because she wants to push all the keys on the computer and ruin your viewing experience. So let's go ahead and get started. Important to know how World War II ended. Oh, are you sad World War II's over? You should have been happy. Okay, maybe you can push the buttons. Okay. No. We can't push spacebar. Okay, so remembering how World War II ended. Remember, the Nazis, as they retreat through Eastern Europe back to Germany, the Soviet Union is going to come in and conquer those places. And then Stalin says at Potsdam, you know what those free elections I promised? At the Potsdam Conference, he says, nah, just kidding. So that's kind of where we go from there. And these areas in Eastern Europe become known as the Eastern Bloc. Western Europe is democratic and capitalist, Maisie, it's true. And they're going to look to American strength during World War II or after World War II. Oh, really? Okay. But in Eastern Europe, and notice the difference here, right? Everything's on your screen. Eastern Europe, these places have Soviet communism, a lack of freedom, and are indirectly controlled by Moscow after World War II. They have their own governments, right? They have their own governments, but they only can have a communist party inside of them, and they more or less refer back or are directed back toward Moscow. Now, they also follow a model called central planning. Okay, central planning. Maisie, you have started the Great British Baking Show back, and I wanted to watch that later. So here we go. Central planning. It's a terrible P. Central planning. And the idea is that the government plots out everything in terms of how the economy works. And we'll talk about many examples of that. So really where you see this partition the most is in Germany. Okay, this division between East and West. That is where you see it the most. Unlike World War I, post-World War I, Germany split into 4 different zones after World War II. And each of the Allied powers has their own zone to control. But as things develop, Germany will be split into 2 different countries, West and East. West being the American, British, and French zones, East being the Soviet zone. And each part of Germany takes on the nature of their kind of mother country's model of society. So you have West being democratic and capitalist, and East will be communist. Now take a look here. Berlin is solely within East Germany, but part of the deal was to take Berlin rather, and split Berlin as well. So now West Berlin is going to be the democratic zone, East Berlin is going to be the communist zone, and they will take on again the nature that each had for its mother country. So it's all about splitting it up, right? Because the idea was to not let the Nazi party kind of reform and have strength going forward. Basically, chaperoning Germany's revival helps knock those extremist attitudes out. However, one thing also to notice that the Soviets from their area, they're going to want reparations, war payments. Remember, these are Germans that fought the Russians in World War II, so they're going to want their financial revenge, much the way that the French wanted after World War II with Germany, or World War I with Germany. And what's interesting about this split in Europe is that it is a clear divide between freedom and communism. Give me 1 second. Maisie is hitting the TV, like hitting it. So, pause. Let me go get it. All right, look who has joined us again. Maisie is here with a big booger hanging out on her nose. So, apologies. So, that divide between East and West, if we go back here and we look at this map here, the clear divide between West and East here in Europe, Winston Churchill makes a speech in Missouri in 1946 and says that there is an iron curtain that is falling across Europe, made in Moscow, and behind it people are trapped by communism, by totalitarian Soviet control, that they get no freedom and enlightenment freedoms and democracy in their lives, and that the West needs to be concerned because a curtain doesn't necessarily stay in the same place. So this is going to start to change attitudes in the United States about how the American government is going to approach communism. And it starts with what's called the Truman Doctrine. 1947, Truman Doctrine, also called containment. Containment, C-O-N-T-A-I-N-M-E-N-T, looking to contain communism. The pledge is to stop the spread of it. But with that, Eastern Europe is abandoned. So those countries, Poland, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, that are already communist because the Soviets liberated them from the Nazis, those areas are lost. They are going to be communist. However, America believes that in Europe at the time, Greece and Turkey were the places to help those governments if they were going to reject the temptation of communism. Another strategy that the U.S. does, this is more the political end, but practically it takes a role in what's called the Marshall Plan. The United States decides to spend $13 billion in helping rebuild Western Europe so that you can convince Western Europeans America's got your back. Don't be tempted to go communist because containment is a mistake. And I need to contain this little one right here because she's wild. Sit you down. We'll finish this up and I'll change your diaper. We'll do something fun like that. This is going to trigger an economic miracle in Western Europe, which you see a lot of economic revival for the country or for the continent because of this financial investment. Take a look at Stuttgart in West Germany in 1947. That is a crap hole as they rebuilt for the war. But 8 years later, Marshall Plan funds from America have helped rebuild the country. And in this map, it shows you by dollar sign how much money has been invested in Western European countries. What I like this map is you literally can see the Iron Curtain fall, and you see the countries to the east of the curtain get no American investment because of our reluctance to go in and try and change a country that's already communist. Again, if we were like, oh, let's just go in and like invade Poland and make it better because, hey, everyone invades Poland, you're risking war, and at this point, again, war involves nuclear weapons, so it's something you may not want to do. Look who's back again. So further division will come at the end of the 40s in the creation of military and economic alliances which further divide the world between the Soviet and American spheres. You have the creation of what's called NATO. NATO is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and it's a unity pact. It's an alliance that Western democracies sign that say they will support one another in the event of a Soviet attack. The Soviet Union will counter with the creation of two separate alliances, one called Comecon, which is an economic alliance that ties these countries to the Soviet Union by communist economic alliance, as that you will produce resources that the Soviet Union can take and redistribute if necessary. They also create the Warsaw Pact, which in much the same way as NATO will bind these countries together to help one another if their side is attacked. And there is kind of the graphical representation of NATO and the Warsaw Pact. 14.2, we're going to look at events of the Cold War and see those develop. We'll see some themes of the Cold War, including this country down here getting involved, Cuba. And we'll also look at how the Soviet Union treats its satellite countries, among other things. So, Maisie, are you excited about the events of the Cold War? I think she's excited about putting her finger in my ear. So I'll go change your diaper. You take your notes, and we'll get on with our day.